Okay, we're going to do some Tales from the Crypt. Does that sound scary? Basically, I'm going to look at my computer. I have received a lot of different types of, what would these be called? Documents, stuff like that. And I have been wanting to read them. So I'm going to read them. You know how you don't have time to read stuff sometimes, and then you have to read it because you need to know and all that good stuff. So I'm just trying to figure out how to get to the top of this. I don't know if I'm doing it right. I hate when I don't know how to use stuff. Okay, there it is. There it is. All right, basically, I got this Redemption Manual 4.5 a long time ago. Here it is. Ooh, Tales from the Crypt. Redemption Manual 4.5 edition. So let's read it, shall we? Let's do that. Ooh, looks a little Harry Potter or something. Oh, mixed with the Matrix there. Published by the Americans Bulletin. How to Become a Secured Party Creditor. Understanding the Matrix and Taking Commercial Control. Let's go there. Redemption Manual, from government-imposed ignorance to enlightenment as a secured party creditor. All right. 4.5 edition. Redemption Manual, 4.5 edition. Redemption Manual. Scrolling. The Americans Bulletin. McCutcheon's Inc. This is where you could get it. P.O. Box 3968, Central Point, Oregon 97502, is the authorized publisher and or distributor of this book. The information and articles contained in this publication are for educational purposes only. The views expressed in this book are solely those of the author and do not represent the views or the opinions of the publisher, McCutcheon's Inc., or any entity, affiliate of McCutcheon's Inc. By using this book, you agree to indemnify, defend, and hold harmless McCutcheon's Inc. and from and against any actual or alleged claims, demands, causes, or action, judgments, damages, losses, liabilities, and all costs and expenses of defense. And I'm basically just reading it, okay? So I'm not giving any legal advice as well. This is for your entertainment purposes only. Redemption Manual 4.5 edition. How to become a secured party creditor. Oh, yeah, there's a phone number out there if you ever want to call them. 541-779-7709. If you want to get a copy of this yourself. I'm going to try to read. I don't know how long this is, but I'm going to try to read it. This book is dedicated to all who seek freedom from the Matrix. The information contained in this book is foundational and entry level. Oh, that's good. That's for beginners. For those who want to become a secured party creditor, and is not to be construed as legal advice. The contents have been reviewed and edited, but errors and typos may exist. This book is not intended to answer every question you may have as to redemption, as no one book can do that in light of the fact of the continuation of the evolution of information and any respective new processes or adjustments to such processes. The Redemption Manual is presented as educational information only, and it is the responsibility of the reader, that would be me, and me, you, the listener, to continue to study, research, document. Oh, get your pen and paper out because we need to document some stuff. If you don't understand some stuff, we're going to have a piece of paper and get a pen and your, I don't know, whatever is going to be hard to write on. I should have bought one of those little things. By the way, people, Office Depot, going out of business. Go get all of your stuff that you need now. So get some paper, get a binder, get some pens, and let's start reading, taking notes getting the right kind of pen, by the way. It's not like you have to have a blue pen or anything. You just gotta get a pen. Therefore, before moving forward, whereupon we presume you will take the necessary responsibility to free your mind and take control. Notice, proceeding from this point is in effect taking the red pill. Obviously, from the first Matrix movie. Movie review is a few pages forward. Since you want to know the truth, to go down the rabbit holes, you will be exposed to new information, history, facts, concepts, processes, etc. So hold on, it's going to be the ride of your life. And your very being, your life, your beliefs, what you've been taught, and your freedom will be tested. All right, let's get on with this. Come on. Acknowledgement. Okay, if you want to buy this book, Robert Kelly wants to acknowledge all those great people. All right, I'll read a little bit. We all have sought the truth and the facts, so we might all come to understand our predicament, servitude, and standing, to more fully see and grasp the importance of our sovereignty and redemption from the commercial scheme. Oh, that's good. And the servitude foisted upon us while our fathers and grandfathers slept. As we continue to travel up this road, we must not forget those who traveled before us and left the signs of their sacrifice. And as we so travel, we must accept the responsibility, dedicate our lives to the same, but higher ends for the truth and freedom. We must seek out others who desire to be free as equal sovereigns, to experience the benefits of redemption and what has been created and established for them and their posterity. May our Creator find our efforts worthy of this orb of rock. I don't know what the orb is all about because we live on a flat earth. Thank you very much. Landmass is earth, dust and water, as we work towards the goal of freedom and our redemption. I just corrected you. Yeah, that was error. We don't live in an orb. Okay, I'm just saying. Notice, redemption is not for the timid, the weak, and the ignorant. One must read, that's what we're doing right now, study and test, apply what one is becoming exposed to in understanding the commercial scheme being operated against every man, woman, and child today in this country for the sole purpose to allow the government corporations to survive and continue to serve themselves under a socialistic, bankrupt democracy. Wow. There is not one book that's going to answer all your questions and give you everything you need to know and understand as to redemption. Much has been researched and written about redemption. It has been both shocking, interesting, and yet exciting to see the processes and the successes in relation to what is dubbed redemption. It is not the end, but the beginning. It is imperative that you move forward with the educational process, acquire other books and information, list contained herein, to understand and implement the transfer from being the debtor slave on the plantation to becoming the secured party creditor and perfecting your sovereignty. If you do not have a computer, and if you do not understand redemption or are unwilling to learn all that might be necessary in regards to the commercial scheme as the supposed principle, sovereign in a collective capacity, and take the responsibility, it is strongly suggested that you do not go forward or continue with what is called redemption. From this point forward, you must decide which pill to take. If you decide to take the blue pill, you will wake up in bed and believe whatever you want. And you go back to the plantation and all remains the same. You continue to be a debtor slave on the plantation, owning nothing, having no rights, only privileges. If you take the red pill, you will be located and removed from the matrix. You'll be exposed to all the rabbit trails, the reality, the truth, and soon you'll be able to recognize the commercial program. And to operate within it in a system where there is no money, because just commercial paper. You will come to understand all things as you go forward. You will learn to go to peace and not to war. Oh, that's good to know. Before you is a lot of responsibility. As you take the red pill and go forward, there's no going back. You will never be the same. Ready to take the red pill? Open your mouth. Here we go. Preface. It would be useful at the outset for us to share with you our fundamental assumptions and motivation for writing this manual and the important results and benefits that we hope you will realize in your study of redemption. The subject of redemption, and you want that, is complex and involves the disciplines of history, government, commercial law, statutory procedure, banking and finance, real estate, and diplomacy. Each of these subjects is highly technical and has its own specialized language. To cover all of them in a single manual at even a fundamental level would of course be impractical. Therefore, out of necessity, we have set as our goal in updating the Redemption Manual 4th edition to present a high-level overview of core concepts that we hope will offer you a clear understanding of what redemption is and how it might be useful to you. The war that is raging in the world is a war to influence what you think. Don't you know that? And ultimately, how you act. You can control any group, no matter how large, if you can shape their opinions, perceptions, and belief system in such a way as to distract them from knowing or understanding the fundamental reality in which they are enmeshed. A prison without bars. This is the ultimate form of leverage. Here's a summary of what happened. Are you ready? Here it is. A group of men who wish to remain anonymous through their agents, employees of the United States Incorporated and their subcorporations, began under the Lincoln administration, you know, Abraham Lincoln, the president of the United States, to quietly hijack, the Constitution and the 3 branches of the constitutional republic. You know what those 3 branches are, right? Do we know what they are? Is it the judicial system, executive, and administrative, or something like that? We'll find out. I was just testing my own brain. What's in there already? A quasi-governmental corporate takeover was then engineered to take control of the 50 states. There was 50 states. I think there was 50 states in Lincoln's time, but we'll just keep going with this. The banking system and the coining and printing of money. A civil war, a bankruptcy, and the confiscation of the wealth of the nation were sponsored in order to create a context. Read emergency. For the enslavement of the formerly sovereign people of the 50 formerly sovereign states under color of law. The icing on the cake in 1938. Can't drop my mouth, sorry. Slippery. Okay, here we go. Where are we? Civil War, emergency, color law, the icing on the cake. 1938, the rulings of the Supreme Court were then partitioned to prevent the invocation of any law based on the common law, to be replaced by the Uniform Commercial Code, UCC. Interesting. And courts of international contract law, admiralty law. The coup d'etat is that most of you don't even realize that you have personally aided and abetted by your own ignorance of history and the law, signed and acted yourself into the system of commercial slavery. You do this every time you get a job, get married, hopefully only one time, give birth, register your car, take out a mortgage, use Federal Reserve notes. That's cash. That's that green money that, well, they got colors now. Monopoly money. Well, okay, the money that we're using called cash. Or join the military. Welcome to the same old world order. We have seen the enemy, and the enemy is us. If this is news, congratulations. You are a successful mind control subject. If you think you are a landowner in America, take a close look at the warranty deed or fee title to your land. You will almost always find the words tenant, or joint tenant or tenancy. The title or deed document establishing your right as a tenant, not a landowner. That's good. I have to check out my timeshare. They make me pay the land taxes. I'm just saying, and not just a tenant and not an owner. I guess I don't have to pay that anymore. It has been prepared for transfer by a licensed bar attorney, British Accreditation Registry. Yeah, that's not good. Just as it was carried out within the original English feudal system that you may have presumed yourself to escape from in 1776. No, yeah, we got that feudal system going on still. If your goal is to recover what has been stolen from you, yeah, it will be necessary to redeem yourself from living a life of false perceptions. Yes, redemption is the path of waging peace with your adversary. Oh, wow, that's deep, man. It is the path of turning the fraud that has been perpetrated on you to your advantage so that you can control your property and prevail in any venue involving agencies and employees of the state and federal government. This manual offers you the opportunity to move from the ranks of debtor-slave on the plantation, slave plantation, like free-range slaves, to the elevated status of secured party creditor. We wish you success in redemption. Here's the introduction, page 8. If you are new to redemption, then the information process as presented in this book may be shocking and a little strange. We understand that it will be a leap of information that you have never been exposed to. Maybe you've experienced your government or were stomped on and railroaded in court or raped, pillaged, or plundered by an attorney, state agency, or even the IRS. Maybe you believe constitutional due process and fairness still exists in the law, in the courtroom. Maybe you believe that everything is the way it's supposed to be. They say jump, and you ask how high. You look around, and aside from the negative TV news at 6 p.m., you just don't see anything wrong. Maybe you've not recognized the glitches in the program yet. Well, better snap out of your seatbelt, Dorothy, because things have changed, and where you're going, there's no turning back. This book was difficult to update from its past third edition format. Over 6 years have passed in regards to what has been dubbed redemption. What has come forward since the first introduction of redemption via seminars, articles, informations, etc. is voluminous. I should know this word. Voluminous. Like, I want voluminous hair. I don't say that word. This book is not to be construed as legal advice. It is the cumulative work and effort of countless hundreds and maybe thousands of those who came before us and who at present have worked at great expense of time and energy to find the truth and freedom, if such at this time in this country and on this planet exist. Using the IRS as an example, We could all agree that based upon well over 25 years of research, all that research is now historical and cannot be rebutted. The facts of history are the facts of history. You cannot go back and change history. You can't, but rather they altered the facts of history in the textbooks to hide certain things for certain agendas. You'll have to be the judge of that for yourself. We'll make an attempt to add commentary, explanation, and other such information in this update to allow better understanding of the problems and the issues as it relates to redemption. It will be incumbent upon the reader, student of redemption, to continue his or her educational experience to fully understand the basics, the fundamentals, and the concepts of redemption to better deal with the problems and the commercial scheme implemented by government without your knowledge or consent. That should make you mad right there. Did you get that part? How they switched it? Commercial scheme, that's what it is. While at this time of our history, the fad is to have fun, yet many do not see the reality that they are living in a fictional world. While we want our children to have fun and live safe, go to college, live the good life, we are often pricked into a jolt of commercial reality in regards to fines, fees, taxes, and the like, having to go to court. Okay, I'm getting distracted because I'm getting texts. Don't do that. Don't do that to me. Whether for traffic or for other matters, there we experience the pain of the economic needle. Oh, isn't that funny? Economic needle. Wow, that's kind of a pun right now, isn't it? Extracting our blood, your labor as converted into what you think is dollars, along with the message that go forth and be a good citizen, subject, do what you're told, shut up and be sure to vote for our corporation people. Within this fictional world of make-believe, because that's what it is, the masses are subjected to playing a gigantic monopoly game where there is no real money and the banker usually wins. As such, and from time and time again, reliable sources, including attorneys, excuse me, reveal that law has no bearing on what happens in court proceedings as much as the procedure, of which is only known to bar members, judges, prosecutors, attorneys, including the very defense attorney you were gullible enough to use. Excuse me. Hire, or who was compelled upon you, who carefully and methodically extract either all your time, community service, slave labor, money, bail, liens, levy, garnishment, fine, restitution, property, child, home, car, bank account, or your liberty, detention, jail, prison, probation. No one told you that your attorney can only represent your debtor, an artificial person, entity. No one told you that court proceedings are purely administrative and not judicial. That's true, as the organic constitutions, state and federal, mandate. In these administrative proceedings, why is it that these so-called courts do not explain the nature and cause of the action, never prove jurisdiction, and never allow you to have counsel of your choice, and never, ever allow the jury? I've never seen any juries, to decide the law in a case trial. Maybe those administrative tribunals are not constitutional judicial courts of due process. Welcome to America. Or should I say, welcome to the United States Corporation. Or maybe you turned on the radio or television and heard yet another politician praising the passage of a bill of which neither the politician nor the other members of Congress ever read, let alone having ever brought it before the unbiased masses for scrutiny, which is not done because the federal Constitution is not for the people. Nearly every bill passed restricts more and more in profound ways freedom of speech, property rights, and freedom of travel, while at the same time gives public servants more power and authority without having to be accountable to the people. Or maybe you received another tax bill, federal, state, property, or a traffic ticket, or a child support payment bill, or whatever. While looking at your bank balance or what's left in your wallet, you realize, hey, I don't have the money to pay for this. And due to the situation, you just might end up in jail or doing community service work to pay off this debt to society. Wow, don't you get a gold star for the day? Oh. What you will come to understand, learn, and know is that the United States, the federal corporation, went bankrupt in 1933. And as a result of further acts, removed the substance backing our nation's money, replacing it with bankruptcy script of a private corporation called the Federal Reserve Bank. Sometime in the 1960s, the Uniform Commercial Code was adopted by most all states. The UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, is the federal common law of negotiable instruments and governs all transactions because there is no lawful money. Substance backing the money being gold and silver, therefore you have not paid your bills nor paid for anything pursuant to the law of payment since 1933. All you've ever done is discharge the debt until a future time. But you have not obtained title. Whoa. The government, because of going bankrupt, had to finance its operation to survive, and it needed to do so because it can only tax what it creates. Doesn't that make sense? Caesar, what Caesar creates, gonna tax what Caesar created. It created artificial entities, ens legis, being a corporation or trust corporation, so that it could tax it. And in doing so, sends you the tax bill or other presentments for fines, fees, and taxes. In operating this scheme against you, you think the presentment is in your name because it says your name right there, but it's like in all capitalized letters. The government has divested you of your rights, titles, interest, property, and wealth by and through an undisclosed and non-disclosed commercial program to rape, pillage, and plunder the American people to keep the private government corporations functioning. Wow. In this book and others, the Redemption Companion, Cracking the Code, 3rd edition, Redemption, the Cold Hard Facts, and possibly other writings, you will learn, understand, and know what the truth is, what the facts are, and what the solution is to recapture or redeem your rights, titles, interest, property, and wealth, and put yourself in the position with standing and capacity, status, and knowledge to accept for value and discharge the debts as a secured party creditor, not as a debtor slave on the plantation as before. Keep in mind, as you begin reading this manual, things within redemption have evolved from the beginning and continue to do so even now. You must make the effort to stay updated and current. Current is spelled incorrectly there, to the best of your ability as to any new aspects or matters dealing with redemption. The historical concept is that the American people are still the sovereign power. The Bible teaches that the Israelites, man, Ra, ruling, El, God, man ruling with God, are the kings and priests of Israel. When the country was supposedly freed at the conclusion of the Revolutionary War, the concept was established that a man is king in his own castle. Last but not least, the people have succeeded to the rights of the king, the former sovereign of the state. They are not, therefore, bound by general words in a statute restrictive of prerogative without being expressly named. Pray tell, do kings pay taxes? The people, due to the bankruptcy and commercial law in place that allows the people as the sovereign power in their secured party creditor capacity to discharge all the fines, fees, taxes, judgments, and debts, take control of all the property, because there is no other way today to pay the debts, as there is no lawful money. Your status was changed to debtor slave on the plantation for the financial benefit of corporate government. Wow, like a big switcheroo. All of a sudden, we the people becomes the CEOs are we the people, and we become the slaves. Interesting. Before you is a path, like the yellow brick road to Oz, from the Wizard of Oz. What you will learn will affect you from this day forward, one way or the other. Freedom and truth is like a two-edged sword. And with redemption comes a lot of responsibility to know and understand all that is necessary to become the secured party creditor, SPC, also known as sovereign, in the collective capacity, with other secured party creditors to understand the reality of the people, by the people, and for the people. As the creditor, you are the banker. Therefore, would you not agree that you have a lot to learn? Note, the Treasury indicated that around January of 2001, that there were over 11 million transactions, chargebacks sent, in which equates to over 11 million secured party creditors on board. Wow. And around mid-year 2002, the number was increased to 22 million. And most recently, 2006, 55 million. But those numbers have in no way been verified. However, you now can become part of this growing base of informed, knowledgeable, secured party creditors, men and women who, as intended by our God and due to the reality of our day and time, are moving forward as those who, being above the government, corporations, are taking their rightful positions over the government servant who operate those bankrupt corporations to understand the commercial scheme and discharge the debts. Understand, in commerce, truth is sovereign. And therefore, the sovereign always deals in the truth in commerce. With that, as in the movie Matrix, you are holding the red pill. You want to know the truth and a whole lot more. You may proceed into the process program dubbed Redemption, and may you stay on the path to learn what has been kept from you, and may you discover what is really behind the curtain. May God guide and bless you on this journey. Forward. This Redemption Manual 5th edition, This Redemption Manual 5th edition is the continuation of an unusual work. Some portions from the 3rd edition are left intact, while others have been updated. Formatting, commentary, updates, and new information have been added. Where necessary, some information documentation will be taken from the Redemption Companion to better present or document a particular point or matter. The writings of a man in prison, preserving his thoughts, his study notes, and his conclusions within letters to his family are maintained. This individual has chosen to reveal his understanding of why he was in prison and how he got there, how to keep the rest of us out of there, how to understand the commercial nature of all things, is the reason for the update of this 5th edition. In the following pages, you will find history, definitions, scripture, information, and best of all, what we Americans have been deprived from, the beginning, the total, as we best understand it today, of the undisclosed commercial scheme that has been perpetuated upon every man, woman, and child in America since 1933, and the solution. In the beginning of this manual are references to scripture. Though some believe it to be a direct part of what we call redemption, it is also presented herein to show that commercial law has been in use since day one. Some believe that this country, without the guidance and help of Almighty God, as a nation is doomed. That might be true. However, for evil to prevail, good men do nothing. We, like so many other civilizations before us, may have left our first love, for it is said in Scripture, "Thou shalt not have any other gods before me." Yep, that's all well and fine, but when one is compelled to honor Caesar and his private corporate rules, regulations, and statutes to support his de facto bankrupt corporation under democratic socialism, today called the federal and state government, it is a little difficult, except in your private prayer room closet, to recognize by prayer or otherwise your creator God, when out in the federal fictional world, there are many gods to distract the people. I'm just saying there's a lot of doctors, scientists, governors and presidents and all that kind of stuff. That's idolatry, people. Hello, I'm just adding my 2 cents right there. It is said that the love of money is the root of all evil. Again, that might be true in some cases. Obviously, in today's society, people scramble for what they think is money to pay the bills and to live in what they think or hope is a comfortable way of life, for it is all they know. Our so-called leaders, in their lust for power and money, have sold our fathers, ourselves, and our children, our posterity, to the 10th generation into bondage. Today, every man, woman, and child owes $1,000 to the national debt. This may be perceived as immoral and reprehensible. However, it is just backwards. The so-called government owes you that amount and a whole lot more for their fraud, damage, and dishonor. All the government does and provides legitimately is in pursuit of its duty to provide protection for private rights, which duty is a debt owed to its creator, we, the people. Windhammer, People, New York, 378. So you see, they owe us. However, due to their unauthorized actions and corruptions, they have removed what was constitutionally established as real money, backed by something of value, gold and silver. Therefore, what you think you owe, what they think you owe, what you think they owe you is of no importance when there is nothing in reality to pay with. And since a total different commercial system has been put into effect to allow what has been called this commerce game to go on and on and on, it is only a matter of importance to fully understand it and utilize it in and for your commercial transactions and in regards to what your so-called government demands, example, in the nature of taxes. Many remarkable discoveries lie ahead. Keep in mind, not everything in everyone's commercial life situations can be addressed or covered herein. However, the principles can be applied to almost every situation. If someone were to ask you to place a value on your freedom, you would undoubtedly say that it is one of your most prized possessions. If, on the other hand, someone were to ask you to name in a single word that which most impinges on your freedom, how many of you would volunteer? Why, me, of course. Then name in a single word the commodity that you are most dependent on informing your impressions, making decisions, and understanding your world? How many of you would say accurate information? Lastly, what word or phrase might you use to label a person who is proud to be oblivious to the underlying conditions of his or her life? Ignoramus, fool, dupe, easily conned, asleep, doesn't care, pretender, happy idiot, insane, or delusional? And if this described your condition, would you be willing to take a deeper look within? In the experience of this author, this describes the majority of Americans today. So it is for the reasons stated above, that redemption is for everyone, and few will be willing to pay the price to learn to take responsibility and to act. These are the attributes that are required of any man or woman who will be free. I will not make any deals with you. I've resigned. I will not be pushed, filed, and stamped, indexed, debriefed, or numbered. My life is my own. You won't hold me, to which number 2 sardonically replies, won't we? Thus begins the arrival. The first of 17 television episodes originally broadcast in Britain in 1967. Subsequent shows seem to support that number 2, a role played by a different actor in each episode, is right. The prisoner can be held. Indeed, each program ends with a set of jail bars closing over the prisoner's face. But what they, whoever they are, can't do is defeat him. For the prisoner manages to triumph despite his hopeless situation because of his unrepentant refusal to sacrifice his ideals and self-identity. So you can sit around and massage each other's hearts, whining and complaining about all the problems you see out there, the government, the economy, your neighbors, etc. Or you can look within. I'm looking at the man in the mirror, hello, and realize that you can't control anything but yourself. And if you were to do that well and join with others around you who are doing that well, you stand a chance. And without that, well, you have what you have. If you read this book, your perceptions and your belief system will be challenged. You will stand at the precipice, and say to yourself, well, if everything that I have been taught is a clever lie and an illusion, then what is the truth? And if you make it to the other side, you will understand the full meaning of the phrase, truth is stranger than fiction. Which do you prefer? The red pill or the blue pill? Finally, understand a few important concepts right here in the beginning. You must cleanse your mind of the law. The scripture refers to this as the renewing of your mind. You must cleanse your heart, your soul, and your mind of the conditioning, the programming, or as some would call it, the brainwashing. Some would have you believe that you are both the subject and object of government today. Not so. The people are to be the principal, the sovereign power, but now in secured party creditor capacity. Your debtor may be the subject and or the object of government, but that understanding is the purpose of this book and what is called redemption. Here's the table of contents. Ooh, Wizard of Oz, Matrix 1, 2, and 3. Redemption, registration, obedience, subjection, present, represent, firstborn of Egypt. AFV, oh, was that accepted for value? Common law versus private law. Theory of cognitive dissonance, Kings. The career, politician's creed, man. Corporations, general public information. Excuse me. Public education and monetary system. Republic. Oh. Oath, license, money, creation, and banks are mirror image. Quotes from the past. March 9th, 1933. Senate document number 43, 73rd Congress. Federalist paper. Oh, you mean that thing that we just like skipped over in political science? Yeah. 79, Law Conference. Keynes, 1920. Money. Stanek versus White. UCC 3, 419. UCC 10-104. 27 CFR 7211. Commercial Crimes. Ooh, Coinage Act, 1965. And Maxim of Law. Section 2, informational articles on U.S. government, bankruptcy, Federal Reserve, etc., presenting new history. Time for a quick timeline of history lesson. A brief history of the United States. What is the United States? The New Deal, United States bankruptcy, 73rd Congress, 1933, HJR 192, emergency powers, fraud. Wow. Secrets of the Federal Reserve. What banks don't want you to know. Ooh, we gotta go there. The Credit River case. History of United States currency. Merchants of fiction. Are you sure you want to hire an attorney? Mythological license to practice law. Essay on the law with Babylon and the Roman Empire. Hierarchy of law. Commercial law. Uniform commercial code law. Section 3, sovereignty. On sovereignty of the people. On the subject of sovereignty, a peek into the mind of a Tory. A tort? I don't know. Memorandum on sovereignty. Section 4, the straw man debtor. What is the straw man? Addressing the straw man matter. The debtor, unincorporated corporation. Why the UCC filing? It's better to have one filed. Commentary on security agreement. Basic steps for redemption. Section 5, becoming a secured party creditor. Instructions and forms. Secured party. Required sources. Convention. Process overview. Security agreement. Power of attorney. Common law copyright. Hold harmless agreement. UCC1 financing statement. Sample of the UCC1. Sample of the UCC1 informational filing. Sample UCC1 amendment for private conveyance. Oh, like your car, right? That sounds good. UCC financing statement, electronic filing, chargeback, letter to the Secretary of State. Ooh. Bill of exchange, birth certificate bond, UCC amendment, UCC 3 amendments with sample text, birth certificate, sample only. 1040 ES tax voucher. That would be a good one to look into. Regional filing list, UCC 1, 3, and 11 for a search, hard copies for duplication on copy machine. No page numbers. Section 6, now what do I do? The private administrative process. Oh, I'd like to skip right to that. Now what do I do? Conditional acceptance for value. Steps dealing with presentments. Discharge of debt. Ooh, cool. I think I've done some of these things. Update with new info. A for V. RFD. Discharge of debt. Reality check. So what? Agents. Section 7, traffic stops and the courts. Introduction. When dealing with the courts, going into court. General immunity pertaining to prosecutors. Before the judge. Courtroom strategies, advanced concepts and techniques, strategies of last resort. The official state known as person. Police encounters, if you are taken to jail. I like how they capitalized you because it's the person, right? A few case cites. Comment before the judge. All day, every day, the mythological motor vehicle. That's something to look into, people. Section 8, affidavits. The affidavit, basic sample of affidavit, affidavit of truth, Benjamin Freedom Franklin, affidavit of notice of default, affidavit of Walker Todd. Section 9, appendix, glossary. The past is now the future. Shock and awe. Revised Article 9 summary. Copy certification. Theodore Roosevelt quote, 1907. Books and materials list, miscellaneous, appendix, note to as to forms, section 5, footprint document. This is not the end. Section 10, list of files on the companion CD. Affidavit of truth, affidavit of notice of default, affidavit of Walker Todd, blank form, security agreement, common law copyright, hold harmless agreement, power of attorney, UCC 1 financing statement, UCC financing statement addendum, and UCC 3 amendment. Articles, 100 years of uniform laws and unabridged chronology. 14th Amendment. I'd like to read that one. Banking quotes. Bill of Rights, 1689. Coinage Act of 1792. Coinage Act of 1965. Congressional record. Emergency Banking Act. Is your banker involved in check kiting? Oh, that one, look into that. JFK Executive Order. Judica Redemption quote. King John 12:13 concession. Leviticus 25. Magna Carta. Manacle world control through the Jesuit order. Maxims and law. McFadden's speech. Money changers in prophecy. Revised Article 9 summary. Revocation of power of attorney. Rudiments of the system. The bull intercatera, the bull Romanus Pontifex, the Credit River Money Opinion, the Declaration of Independence, the Federal Reserve Act, the Paris Peace Treaty, 1783, transcript of Norman Dodd, Unraveling the American Nightmare, Void in the Law. So right here, we're on page 20. You have by now swallowed the red pill, and you want to see the whole truth? You're ready to go down the rabbit trails so that when you surface, you'll understand and you can free your mind. Come to understand who you are and what you are. Then the system will unplug you and spew you out from the matrix. And then your journey begins. The first step, let's go to the movies. Page 21. We go to the movies for entertainment, maybe to get away from the reality of our world, and just for a few moments we escape that reality and enter a twilight zone, if you will, of adventure, romance, and the like. But is it possible someone is trying to tell you something? Is there full disclosure being made on the silver screen? Are you aware of the message, or have you been oblivious? Following them are the movie reviews on The Wizard of Oz and the Matrix movies. They are presented herein to allow you to understand really what has happened and what to understand. The Wizard of Oz. Some of you might like this. We're off to see the wonderful Wizard of Oz. The coded movie of what really happened to America by Robert Kelly. Just as you can read between the gory lines in the newspaper on any given day in America, you can discover clues and truths slipped in by the powers that be. If you look hard enough as to what is actually going on, such notice can also be found in somewhat lighter fare. The movies. As you well know, movies have become the national pastime of entertainment. Millions go to the movies. VHS tapes and DVDs fill in the rest of the gap. The storyline, topics, and the timeframes vary as to the manuscript and the vision of the directors. Such a movie was The Wizard of Oz, an allegory for the new state of affairs in America in the 1930s. Wow. Following the stock market crash and the factual bankruptcy of the United States government immediately following. Wow. The Wizard of Oz movie is not just a movie for children, though perceived today it is. and it has become a national icon of a historical nature, replayed every year on television just for the children. What is missed by most is the symbolism in the movie in almost every character and aspects of the set and so-called special effects and props back then. After reading this article and then seeing the movie again, it will never be the same to you or your children. The setting was Kansas, Heartland, America, the geographical center of the USA. In comes the twister, the tornado, i.e., whirling confusion of the stock market crash that left everybody economically dizzy. It signified the theft of America's gold. Wow. The coming U.S. bankruptcy, the Great Depression. The tornado whisked Dorothy and Toto up into a new artificial dreamlike dimension somewhere above the solid ground of Kansas. When Dorothy awakes, she finds herself in the land of Oz. Dorothy comments to her little companion Toto, "I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore." That's right. After the bankruptcy, Kansas was no longer just plain old Kansas. It was now KS, an artificial corporate venue of the bankrupt United States, newly established federal territory, part of the federal zone, and Dorothy and Toto were in this state now. On her journey in this unfamiliar land, Dorothy meets up with three unusual characters, each having certainly a different problem or aspect as portrayed on the silver screen, but their true identity has been decoded, and it follows. The first was the Scarecrow, a man of straw, a front, and he identified his straw man persona for Dorothy. Some people without brains do an awful lot of talking. Of course, I'm not bright about doing things. And in his classic song, "If I Only Had a Brain," the Scarecrow's straw man succinctly argued, "I'd unravel every riddle for every individual in trouble or in pain." Today, in light of redemption, we would translate it as, once one discovers that his straw man exists, all political and legal mysteries, complexities, and confusions are resolved or understood. And once one takes legal title, control to his straw man, he becomes the authorized representative of the straw man to accept and discharge, settle all commercial affairs, as in Oz, the new commercial world, also known as the Matrix. Because the straw man has no brains and no hands and fingers to grasp a pen to write the check, so to speak, to pay the fine, fee, tax, or debt. The second character was the Tin Man, or TIN. Oh my gosh. Also identified as the tax identification number. Oh, wow. The Tin Man was a hollow man of metal, a vessel, a vehicle, a newly created commercial code word for the straw man. Wow. Just like the Scarecrow, the Tin Man had no brain and no heart. Both were artificial persons. One of the definitions of tin in Webster's is counterfeit. The Tin Man also represented the mechanical and heartless aspect of commerce and commercial law. Just like they say in the mafia, nothing personal, it's just business. And in another profession similar to the mafia, the business of lawyering, they have the attitude that it's nothing personal. Business is business. The heartless Tin Man also carried an axe, the traditional symbol for God. Example, modern commercial law and earlier dominant civilizations, including fascist states. In the words of the Tin Man, expressing relief after Dorothy had oiled his rusty points and parts, he said, "I've held that axe up for ages." The word ace is etymologically related to the word axe. Is that so? Ace, axe. And in a deck of cards, the only one above the king is the ace, God. One of the Axis powers of World War II, Italy, was a fascist state. The symbol for fascism is the fasces, a bundle of rods with an axe bound up in the middle of its blade projecting. And the fasces may be found on the reverse of the American Mercury head dime in Roman deity Mercury was the god of commerce. It can also be found on the wall behind and on each side of the speaker's podium in the US Senate. Each gilded fasces is approximately 6 feet in height. And at the base of the seal of the US Senate are 2 crossed fasces. The third character that Dorothy met was the Cowardly Lion, or king of beasts. And as the most feared of all animals in the jungle was lacking courage, the lion is symbolic of the once fearless American people who have since lost their courage. Yes, there are a lot of hot talkers out there. Just listen to your local radio talk shows. American men love to talk, but none have the courage to do a damn thing. The American people are scared of the corporate federal system and local revenue collectors, i.e., for example, cops and judges in their so-called courtrooms, tribunals of justice, commerce. After your first few go-rounds with the just us system, believing there was justice in the courts, you probably lost some of your courage too. And you may have not known it, but the IRS has been dealing with only your straw man, debtor, strictly under the laws of commerce, and they are just like the Tin Man, heartless. After Dorothy and her 3 companions made their way to Oz, they had learned that they had to go see the wizard. To find the wizard, they had to just follow the yellow brick road. Gold is known as yellow bricks, wow, and melted into ingots. All one has to do is follow the trail of America's stolen gold, and you will find the thief who stole it. In the beginning of the movie, the wizard was represented by the traveling mystic, Professor Marvel, whom Dorothy encountered when she ran away with Toto. His macabre shingle touted that he was acclaimed by the crowned heads of Europe, past, present, and future. Boy, that Professor Marvel must have been a regular wizard to be acclaimed by the future crowned heads of Europe before they were even crowned. Before the bankers stole America, they had long since disempowered the Christian monarchies of Europe and looted their kingdoms. Maybe this Professor Marvel fellow knew something about the future that other folks didn't. With the human skull peering down from its painted perch above the door inside his wagon, the good professor lectured Dorothy of the priests of Isis and Osiris and the days of the pharaohs of Egypt. When Dorothy and her new friends emerged from the forest, they were elated to see the Emerald City before them, only a short jaunt away. Then came the Wicked Witch of the West, desperate for the ruby slippers that Dorothy was wearing, as they held special powers. A significant point here is that the original book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, published in 1900, 39 years earlier, the slippers were not red but silver. In the first cut of the movie, the slippers were silver, but they were changed to red to be more colorful. At the time the book was written, America still had all of its gold and silver. The value of 1 ounce of gold was set at 15 ounces of silver, with silver being more plentiful of the 2 metals and generally known as poor man's gold. Just as the silver slippers carried Dorothy, America's stockpile of silver and gold backing the currency carried the country to a position of preeminence throughout the world at that time. But as mentioned, when the movie came out in 1939, the slippers were not silver but red. Between 1916 and 1933, most of America's gold was rounded up by the privately owned Federal Reserve banks and shipped off to the Fed owners in England and Germany. The reason for this was the Federal Reserve notes could be redeemed in gold, and the use of Federal Reserve notes carried an interest penalty that could only be paid in gold. The American people were defrauded into trading their gold for worthless paper with green ink on it. Green, huh? Wizard of Oz. Our previous currency, United States notes, carried no such interest requirements, but such was the bargain that came with the Federal Reserve notes. The reason JFK was murdered was because he was reissuing United States notes, interest-free. Go to any coin store and see or buy 1963 US, not Federal Reserve note. When the bankruptcy was declared in 1933, Americans were required, misdirected, to turn in all gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates by May 1st, known as May Day, the birthday of communism in Bavaria in 1776, the birthday of the IRS, oh my gosh, and celebrated worldwide as the International Workers' Holiday, a holy day to the wizard and his tribe. Talking to people who were alive at that time, you may find out that the general sentiment towards such thievery bordered on a second revolution. Maybe it was just too much of a clue, or too much salt in the wound for Dorothy to be skipping down the yellow brick road in a pair of silver slippers, so that for whatever reason, a color less likely to annoy or provoke was selected, i.e. red. Example. With regard to the choice of ruby, or red-colored slippers, red's primary significance, at least on documents and the like, is that it is the color of blood, as in flesh and blood, and symbolizes a living, breathing man or woman. Example, non-corporate, non-artificial. The color red could also have been chosen for the related tie to the International Banking Federal Reserve founder, the Rothschilds, also known as Red Shield family. It does signify private as opposed to public. Your new Social Security card has a red serial number on the reverse, signifying the private side bond account attached to the public side of your strawman Social Security account. For postal employees, red sticker registered mail means personal accountability, private. Oh, we should be sending private registered mail. Oh, private. Gotcha. All other mail carries limited liability. Oh, public. Interesting. It is likely that the ruby slippers symbolize the American people with blood in their veins, as opposed to citizens of the United States. Strawmen with the counterfeit corporate blood of blue-black ink on a birth certificate. No matter their color in the movie, the Wicked Witch of the West wanted those slippers at any cost and had to move fast before Dorothy and her crew could make it to the Emerald City. The witch's tactic was to cover the countryside with poppy flowers, or poppies, the source of heroin, opium, and morphine, symbolically drugging them, the American people, into unconsciousness, and then just waltz in and snatch the slippers. In other words, the best way to subjugate the American people and boost the goods was to dull their senses by getting them hooked on drugs. Note, LSD was created the same year, 1939, by Dr. Albert Hoffman. The poppies drugs worked on Dorothy, the Lion, and Toto, our flesh and blood friends, but had no effect on the Scarecrow or the Tin Man, the artificial entities. The two of them cried out for help, and Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, answered their prayers with a blanket of snow, also known as cocaine, a stimulant, nullifying the narcotic effect of the poppies, opium on Dorothy, the Lion, and the Toto. At this writing, aside from marijuana, the two most available drugs on the streets of America are heroin and cocaine in their various forms. As they all scampered toward Emerald City, the city of green Federal Reserve notes, I picked up on that earlier, the new fiat money, or money by decree, we heard the munchkins singing on the glory of the wizard's creation. You're out of the woods, you're out of the dark, you're out of the night, step into the sun, step into the light, keep straight ahead for the most glorious place on the face of the earth or the stars. The foregoing jingle abounds with illuminist Luciferian symbols and metaphors regarding darkness and light. The Wicked Witch of the West made her home in, around medieval watchtower ancient symbol of the Knights Templar of Freemasonry, who are given to practicing witchcraft and also credited as the originators of modern banking circa 1099 AD. The Wicked Witch of the West was also dressed in black, the color symbolizing the planet Saturn, sacred icon of the Knights Templar, and the color of choice of judges and priests for their robes. Don't forget the professors around graduation time too. And the students. Who was the Wicked Witch of the West? Remember on the first part of the film, her counterpart was Elmira Gulch, who, according to Auntie M, owned half the county. Miss Gulch alleged that Dorothy's dog, Toto, had bitten her. She came to the farm with an order from the sheriff demanding that they surrender Toto to her custody. Aunt Em was not immediately cooperative and answered Miss Gulch's allegations that Toto had bitten her with, he's really gentle, with gentle people, that is. Could gentle really mean Gentile? When Miss Gulch defied them to withhold Toto and go against the law, dear old Aunt Em was relegated to pushing the party line for Big Brother. She dutifully succumbed to the pressure and counseled Dorothy reluctantly. Does this sound like most of the American people? We can't go against the law, Dorothy. I'm afraid poor Toto will have to go. When Dorothy refused to surrender Toto, Miss Gulch lashed out. If you don't hand over that dog, I'll bring a damn suit that'll take your whole farm. Today, 70% of all attorneys in the world reside in the West, America to be exact, and 95% of all lawsuits in the world are filed under U.S. jurisdiction. The Wicked Witch of the West and Miss Gulch, dear friends, represent judges, and attorneys. Whoa. Example, the American legal system, including the attorney-run U.S. Congress. They are the executioners and primary henchmen for transferring all wealth in America from the people over to the banks and the government. The Wicked Witch of the West wanted the silver slippers, the precious metals, and her counterpart, Miss Gulch, wanted to take Toto. What does the word Toto mean in attorney language? Example, Latin, everything. Oh, like total, huh? Toto. Dorothy and her three companions finally made their way to the Emerald City. They sought an audience before the wizard, were taken inside and brought before the wizard, a gigantic image speaking in a loud voice behind glass, similar to smoke and mirrors. Dorothy and the gang fell for the wizard's illusion, power and commands in the beginning, but it was little Toto who, by his instinct, pulled the curtain back to expose the fraud of the wizard, a front man for the wizard, an agent for the fiction. This wizard the people feared. The wizard, this gigantic image speaking in a loud voice behind glass, could very well symbolize, with the advent of television, the power of government. Whoa, speaking lies before the people via TV. Oh, right there. Stop watching the TV, people. You know, they're all 6 families in charge of that. Come on. Because if the people saw it on TV, it must be true. And of course, the people will believe their government, won't they? Remember the drugs? But Dorothy and the others soon wised up and revealed the wizard for what he was, a confidence man. Then, when asking the administrative agencies about helping the scarecrow straw man about getting a brain, he gave the straw man a piece of paper and a diploma from a university. The wizard also cited the land of e pluribus unum, which is Latin for one out of many. Example, converting the many into one new world order, or novus ordo seclorum, a Latin phrase placed on the American $1 bill shortly after the bankruptcy. Wow. He also proudly confessed that he was born and bred in the heart of the Western wilderness, an old Kansas man myself. He gave the Tin Man a ticker, clock, to sound like a heart, but it was not. And to the lion, he gave a medal to signify that the lion had courage. Oh, these all, of course, were mere trinkets in the land of Oz, a fictional world, of course. The bankers did pretty well in Europe, but as the wizard pointed out, they made a killing in the Western wilderness. Example, America, with the theft of American gold, labor, and property, quoting John D. Rockefeller, grateful and responsive rural folk who populated the country at that time. When Dorothy asked Glenda, the Good Witch of the North, representing honesty, good faith, and Christianity, for help in getting back to Kansas, Glenda replied, "You don't need to be helped. You've always had the power to go back to Kansas. Just click your heels together 3 times, 3 days, truth in lending, and say, there's no place like home." Translation, you've always had the right and power to reclaim your sovereignty. You just forgot or were never taught that you or the American people have such power. That's interesting. The Oregon Bill of Rights says the people have all power. Since the people are the true sovereign power, then it is only necessary to wake from the dumbed-down, drugged-like effect the powers that be have over you and the American people as to that power and position, and then exercise it. Okay, we're going to stop on page 25, and I shall read this again. Good night. It's tired time. I'm tired.